I got the message. Yeah, it's showing.
Good evening, all. Thank you for attending the event. Let us wait for a few more minutes. We are expecting other students to join us as well. So give us around like 5, we will begin the session. Okay, great. I think we should start right now. Hi, welcome and wish you all a very, very pleasant evening. This is Arul from SI UK. I will be your host today for the live webinar on UK student visa graduate immigration route. SI UK has been guiding students for over a decade now in India, with us being specialists in regards to studying in the United Kingdom alone. SI UK has over 45 offices around the globe with headquarters in London. And we have around 10 offices over here in India at New Delhi, Lucknow, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, and Coimbatore. We have also Madhusudan with us here today, who is the regional manager of North India of SI UK, who will be providing valuable inputs to students as well. in regards to the universities. Our guest of honor, Harry from UK Visas and Immigrations, will deliver the keynote address and will be providing a question and answer session soon after he completes. So I request the students to send your questions via the chat panel over here, and we will be able to answer once the session is over. Harry, thank you so much for attending this. Please start your session.
Thank you, Errol. Pleasure to be here. As you will know, but not everybody watching will know, I've spent 3 years, in fact, 3 years today. 3 years is my anniversary in India today. And a big part of my time in the last 3 years has been working on students. In the last 3 years, we've seen a huge increase of about 500%, 450% of Indian students choosing the UK. And we've got the graduate route coming next year. So there's good news there, but obviously the main news is COVID-19 and how that will affect travel. So my presentation here will address both the good news, the graduate route, and some of the other news, the COVID-19 concessions. I can see a lot of questions and attendees already. So I will try and keep my presentation short and give as much time to these questions as possible. So I'm just going to share my screen now and begin. So just hopefully you can all see that. Do shout if not. This is our presentation for students who are looking to go to the UK in autumn 2020, which is important because, as I'll say at the end, that there's change in 2021, but for now we're just talking about August, September, October, November, December of this year. So firstly, graduate route. The biggest news in student education for India, I guess, certainly for UK for 10 years perhaps, because the 2-year post-study visa is such a significant part of an Indian student's choice to study abroad. And we know that, the Home Office knows that, and that's why we introduced it. As we leave the European Union, we want to be the best place to study overseas. We think our universities play a huge part of that. We've got 3 universities in the top 10 best universities in the world. Everyone knows UK education is amongst the best in the world, but we also know that the possibility of staying in the UK after is a big part of the decision to study in the UK. That's what the graduate route is for, a 2-year post-study work route after someone completes a course. So we're introducing it next year in summer 2021 for people who are at undergraduate level or above. We do not have a date on what summer 2021 means, but if you are a new student who is looking to go next month in September or after, or perhaps January next year, you will be able to apply for this route, assuming you otherwise meet the conditions. These conditions are not complicated. For example, you should be studying at undergraduate level or above, and you need to complete your course. Things like that. There are no employment sponsorship requirements or anything like that. It's much more about completing education and applying for the post-study leave from the UK. And everyone who goes from September and is otherwise eligible will be able to do that. And as well as many others as well, but for all new students is who I'm directly addressing there. If you're an undergraduate or a master's student, we know most of students going from India to UK are master's students. You will get 2 years non-extendable leave and 3 years if you're a PhD student, where you can work or look for work at any skill level. So you do not need to, for example, be paid a certain salary, or you do not need to be sponsored by an employer, like you do, for example, in the Tier 2 skilled work route. You also don't need to be sponsored by your university. There is no restriction, apart from the obvious restrictions of UK labour law, for example, working for the minimum wage and anything like that. There is no restriction on your employment. It's also more than 4 times longer than our post-study work offer to date. So what will happen is that everyone who is successful in applying for a Tier 4 visa will be granted the same, and that will come with 4 months post-study leave as part of the Tier 4 visa. And then during that 4 months after you complete your course, but before your Tier 4 visa runs out, you will be able to apply for the graduate route from inside the UK. And then if you're successful, you will have 2 years from the end of your Tier 4 visa to stay in the UK. As I say, there's no restrictions on work or looking for work. You could work for one of the UK's richest banks. You could work for a scientific research organisation. You could work for your university. You could work in a coffee shop or a fast food restaurant to earn some money, or you could intern to build skills and experience in your area of, in your industry of choice. There is no restrictions on that. Two things important to note that it doesn't do. One is that you can't access public funds, which most immigration routes don't. That's things like housing support or other government investment. I don't think many people expect that, but it's important to note. It also is non-extendable, so you get 1 2-year route per student. You can't, for example, go from undergraduate to graduate route to postgraduate to graduate route to PhD to graduate route. It's not a holding pattern like that. You get a graduate route of 2 years per student. In addition, you can't extend it. If you want to stay in the UK beyond the end of the 2-year period, you can apply for a different route, but you can't apply to extend the graduate route. And neither Tier 4 nor the graduate route count towards settlement rights. Generally, you have to be in the UK for about 5 years on an eligible route to be able to apply for indefinite leave to remain. And neither the Tier 4 or the graduate route would count towards that 5 years. You'd have to move to, for example, the Tier 2 skilled work route to accrue settlement rights. So it's not a never-ending ability to stay in the UK, but it's a huge, huge improvement for Indian students to earn money, pay back loans, gain experience, build their life in the UK. That I know is of fantastic interest, particularly now, given people want surety around COVID-19 and paying for international study. The graduate route and the chance to really deepen your roots in your country of choice is there, and the UK is guaranteeing that we're bringing it in next year. And then the next 2 slides are 8 things that I think is really important to know, including the graduate route, but also other COVID-19 concessions. So firstly, although we hope that you'll be able to travel as soon as possible, if you cannot travel right now due to restrictions relating to COVID-19, we are allowing students to start studying online and then transition to the UK later when it's safe to do so. Or simpler, for example, if exams are delayed or flights are delayed or insufficient for demand. You only need to apply for your Tier 4 visa when you need to travel, so you don't need to have the Tier 4 visa in the time for your study starting in, say, mid-September. It would only be for when you actually need to travel. So you can have what universities are calling blended learning or distance learning. You can start that process and only transition later, which gives a lot of flexibility given the unpredictability of COVID-19. More importantly, or as importantly, the graduate route, which I just mentioned, even if you don't get to your course for the start of the course in September, for example, you will still be able to apply for the graduate route if you are in the UK by the 6th of April 2021. Say, for example, a postgraduate student starts in September 2020, they do their first 2 terms, winter and spring, overseas, and then they travel to the UK in March or even early April. They'll still be able to apply for the graduate route. You could do 2/3 of your course overseas, theoretically, and still be able to apply. So again, if you are stuck due to COVID-19, you don't need to worry. Many, if not all, of people who would otherwise be eligible will still be able to apply for the graduate route. And of course, we have guaranteed that it's coming in. Thirdly, many of our visa applications are now open. Worldwide, 3/4 of all our visa application centres are open. And in India, 11 out of 18 are. This includes Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, Jalandhar and Chandigarh, and a couple of others. Not all of our centres are open. Some of them we can't open still because of COVID-19, but all 11 of 18 across all major metro cities are open. So you can visit VFS Global, that's the provider of the visa centres in India, if you want to find out more information. And just as importantly for students and parents, when you apply for the visa, you can be assured that our visa application centres run by VFS are taking added health measures. This includes, for example, social distancing, what they call customer management, which means they'll limit the amount of people in the visa centre to make sure it's not too crowded. There'll be hand sanitizer points. There'll be regular sanitisation of the VAC as a whole. There may be requirements to wear a mask and undergo a temperature check. And all of this is to keep our staff, VFS staff, and our customers safe. Generally, I think the visa application centre is almost the first step on the trip to the UK. And we hope that if a student feels safe in the visa centre, they will feel safe about going to the UK, which of course is everyone's priority during this year. In general, we'll be applying our usual standard of 15 working days, which is about 3 weeks, to process a UK visa, a student visa, or any other type of visa. And we're still doing that. We are processing visas again, and all new applications can be processed in 15 working days. We are now offering priority visa and super priority visa. These are paid services, but we are only offering these in Delhi. This is because we can only offer them in Delhi. There are still major restrictions in transporting visas, and that means we can't transport them around India at the speed with which we need to allow these services to run. So if we know many of our students come from Delhi or near Delhi, and these will be able to apply for priority visa or super priority visa for an additional cost. Other students are welcome to come to Delhi if they wish to apply for priority visa. And we will hope to bring it back to other cities as soon as we can. But if you can't get to Delhi, you should expect 15 working days, and 97% of people last year received visa within that time. So if you apply early, you'll get a visa in time to travel. Additionally, when you receive your visa, it will give you 90 days to enter the UK. Visa stamp, or visa vignette as we call it, is usually 30 days. That gives you the ability to enter the UK. It's what's in your passport, and then you collect the biometric residence permit, the sort of like an ID card inside the UK. We're now giving you 90 days instead of 30 to pick up that, but to enter the UK. That's triple the amount of time, and it means you have flexibility if you can't travel straight away due to COVID-19. So if, for example, I know from living in Delhi that some commercial flights are looking to come back. For example, BA have opened booking for flights. And I know universities are also looking at travel. But this is, of course, more unpredictable than last year or any other year, really, in living memory. So given that unpredictability, UKVI now say students get 3 times as long to travel as opposed to 30 days before. And then finally, the border is open, but everyone needs to fill out a contact tracing form. That's a digital form that gives the UK government information on where you're coming from, where you're going, and how to get in contact with you if we need to contact someone about issues relating to COVID-19. And currently, Indians do need to self-isolate. And by Indians, I mean people who travel from India. I am a UK government employee, but if I go back from Delhi to London, I would need to self-isolate as well. It is about where you're traveling from rather than what nationality you are. And as we all know from living in this country, India still has quite a high number of infections. And it's basically just a health restriction based on that issue. So it's to keep you safe as someone who is traveling, and it's to keep the UK in general safe, which obviously you will have an interest on if you're looking to study there. Final point on border and COVID related issues is that all COVID testing and treatment is free, provided by the National Health Service. So you do not need to pay any additional cost if you need a COVID test or COVID treatment. I hope you don't, of course, but if you do, it's free. So, as I've said, we have resumed VACs where local conditions allow, and that's in 11 out of 18 locations across most of India's major cities. But we still advise you to check VFS's global website to book appointments. Even for when you're picking up your passport, for example, you can opt to pay for courier, so can opt for it to be paid back to you. But if you want to pick it up yourself, you can still do this, of course, but you do need an appointment to pick up because VFS are managing people at the VAC. So make sure to check the website before you go to your local VAC because you need to have an appointment. In the last couple of weeks, we've had to temporarily close Pune, for example, due to a local lockdown. And we've had to close Mumbai for 1 day due to a major monsoon, which some of you may have experienced. It's an unpredictable time. We will open centres and keep them open as much as we can, but make sure to check the website for your own safety and for your own predictable. You want to know that the trip is worth going before you travel. As I say, we're processing them within our standard 15 working days. And apart from Delhi, there is no PV or SPV at the moment. So if you really need to apply in 5 days or 1 day, you will have to apply from our New Delhi centre. And then we do expect a minimum of delays. This is to do with the logistical routes. As I say, there's fewer flights to transport visas, for example, there's fewer cargo flights. But demand is, of course, lower because there's less people traveling for holidays, for example. So we are confident that we will deal with the vast majority of cases within 15 working days. But if there are small delays in delivery, we appreciate your patience. And of course, we encourage people to apply early as they can. UK visa rules allow people to apply 3 months early, and you should be applying about 1 month before you intend to travel. But as I say, if you can't travel straight away, you can study online and apply when you do need to travel to the UK. So here's some stats. This is from just before the COVID-19 pandemic hit us all in March, April. And they were a good news story for the students in general and for Indians in particular. So we were almost at 3 lakh students, 299,000, which was 23% increase. But as you'll see, India's increase was over 6 times, or no, just under 6 times faster, 136% up in just 1 year, from about 22,000 to 50,000, which is incredible. Much faster than the Chinese rate of increase or any other countries, and considerably faster than the global increase. More and more Indian students are choosing the UK because of the UK's good education standards, and increasingly because of the graduate route. So even though it might be more difficult to travel this year, you're in good company as Indian potentially choosing the UK, and we really encourage people to keep choosing it despite the challenges, and you'll get the graduate route, of course. We're now at the largest number in 10 years. Of course, this is a very unpredictable year, but in terms of the situation, like the accessibility of Indians to education, COVID aside, it's probably the best it's been in recent memory, I'd say. So there is a good news story despite COVID-19. This is of relevance, but it's only for people who are currently in the UK. So if you are not yet applied for a visa, this does not affect you. So, but if you are a student in the UK who was unable to travel back to India, you can stay in the UK till 31st of August without applying for a new visa. But if you want to stay in the UK beyond the 31st of August, you need to apply for a new visa. That could be Tier 4. If you want to apply for a Tier 4 visa inside UK, you are currently allowed to do this. Or it could be a different visa, for example, a work visa if you had a job offer. So as I say, if you're a new student, this doesn't need to worry you. But if you are inside the UK, you have until the end of the month to either leave the UK or apply for a new Tier 4 or other category of visa. So, and this is again for people, if you've not applied yet, this does not apply to you. But if you applied for a visa or looked to travel before May, for example, and you received a 30-day vignette and were unable to travel, UKVI have committed to replace that visa free of charge with a 90-day visa when it's time to travel. The details are on gov.uk, and they're also in these paragraphs below. It's on the Coronavirus Immigration Help Centre. We only advise that people apply for their visa when they know they can travel, because there is a process and it does take time to replace the visa vignette. But if you are delayed beyond 90 days in this case, there is currently a policy to renew the visa vignette. So again, if you're a new applicant, you do not need to worry about this either. But if you applied 4 to 6 months ago and you are still looking to go to the UK, this may be an option for you to replace your vignette. I've already just touched on the border measures, but as I say, if you go on to www.gov.uk and search for UK border control at this link, you will be able to find full information on the border policy. You do need to submit the journey and contact details. So that's where you're traveling from, where you're traveling to, and where you're staying in the UK. And that's the contact tracing form that I mentioned. And you need to self-isolate after arrival. The UK government does not require a certain location of self-isolation. I am in New Delhi, and I know the Delhi government requires specific hotel isolation for most of its arrivals. That's not what the UK government is doing. You can isolate at families, you can isolate at a hotel, you can isolate at rented accommodation. The university could be providing accommodation to isolate in, and I know many of them are. So you need to speak to your local university, but the UK government does not have a set requirement in that respect. So it is a requirement of everyone traveling from India, as I say, including me as a UK diplomatic employee. It's to do with health. It's not part of the visa process, and there's not an additional form or anything you need to apply for. You do not need a COVID test before traveling to the UK, for example. At least it's not a requirement of the UK government, but you should expect to isolate somewhere for 2 weeks after, and universities will look to support you. So please speak to your university. Quickly going through the process, the Tier 4 process is broadly the same as last year with all the obvious social distancing requirements of COVID, but you apply online on this link on gov.uk, and you book an appointment with your visa application centre, the closest. As I say, not all of them are open. For example, Trivandrum in Kerala is not open, but you could, if you're a Trivandrumite, travel to Cochin, which is, I know, a few hours drive away, but it's still a fairly close centre to travel to. So you have to book for the nearest appointment, and then you go there and you can upload your documents and give your biometrics, and then it takes 3 weeks from that date at the VAC. 96%, I believe, of Indians last year were successful in having a visa granted, which is great. That's much higher than the national average, the global average. In the small percent of people who are refused, we'll give you a letter via email. We don't give a physical letter anymore, which will tell you why you were refused, unless you have been dishonest in the application, like, for example, hiding a previous immigration refusal. You would not be banned. You could apply again with the information. So, for example, if you're refused for not providing financial information, you could apply again with that financial information. There'd be no block on doing that. And then a final couple of slides on the overview. You still need to have been offered a place in a course, be able to speak, read, write, and understand English, and have the money to pay for your first year of tuition and first 9 months of living costs. The tuition fee will differ depending on the university. There's quite a significant range. And the living costs will be, if you're outside London on a course that's longer than 9 months, it'll be £9,000. And if you're inside London on a course longer than 9 months, it'll be £11,000, reflecting the fact that London is a much more expensive city. There are other eligibility requirements, for example, a TB test, which you will need to go through, and the full information is on Tier 4, on the Tier 4 visa page on gov.uk. And I know SI UK also have plenty of information that I'm sure they're willing to share. You can apply up to 3 months in advance, and you should apply about 1 month in advance. But as I say, the flexibility is, at the moment, is that if you can't travel or you're studying digitally for the first month or two, you don't need to apply for the visa at that point. This is a list of some documents. Most people will need most of these documents, but you should assess your own requirements and not take this as a tick list for everybody. You need a current and valid passport. That should be valid for your arrival in the UK. You need a CAS, confirmation of acceptance for studies, which is a reference number that you receive from your university. You need that to apply for the visa. You can't submit a visa application without a CAS reference number. You need the CAS will tell you what language and academic requirements they are. This will differ from university to university, and you need to have whatever the university asks for on the CAS for your UK visa application. So many people ask me, does the UKVI require this document, and this document? My response is always, it is what the university asks for when it comes to academics and language requirements. You need finances. As I say, this will be first year of tuition and 9 months or more of maintenance costs. You may need an ATAS, Academic Technology Approval Scheme certificate. Your university will tell you if you need this. If you do need it, it's a separate application, and I advise you to do that first, because again, it's non-negotiable. If you need an ATAS, you must get an ATAS. And then everyone from India does need a TB test certificate. These are our contact details. I know there's dozens of questions already, but for individual questions about UK visas, like for example, how long is my visa going to take? I can't answer those on an individual level. So you'd need to contact this email or this phone. Of course, all our policy information about, like, for example, what Tier 4 visa, what we need for a Tier 4 visa, that's all online. So I advise you to first check gov.uk And then second, contact these help centres if gov.uk doesn't answer your question. And again, I'm sure SIUK also offers support. I can't advise on their support, but I'm sure they can. So so there's multiple sources of information. These are some links. I will go on to questions now. So thank you for your attention. I hope that was useful. There's quite a lot to say, as you can imagine. So we've got about half an hour for questions, but I'll try and answer as many of them as possible. So thank you, and I look forward to the next 30 minutes of questions. Hi, Errol, you're still on mute, I'm afraid. Can't quite hear you.
Sorry, Harry. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
So yeah, we do have a lot of questions from students which are live, as well as like students have like asked these questions before as well. So I'm going to give you one by one, and I would really have insights into these questions as well. So the first situation is, if a student is already there in the UK on a Tier 4 visa and is applying for another Tier 4 because of the current COVID-19 situation, and he's unable to travel back to India and then apply, but for example, his funds, the fixed deposits, are in the name of the parents, is it possible for him to just show the PDF, or does he need to provide the physical copy of these fixed deposits?
We can't provide advice on how individual documents should be portrayed. All we would say is that if you're stuck in the UK and you can't return to India due to coronavirus restrictions, you can currently apply for Tier 4 visa. That's another change we've made recently because of COVID. So A, yes, it's possible, but B, you have to meet the Tier 4 requirements. So what UKVI have been trying to say is that no one will be disadvantaged. They'll have exactly the same rights as if there were no COVID restrictions. So if someone were able to come back to India and apply from there, they would be expected to meet the Tier 4 requirements. So they can now apply for that from UK, because it would be unfair to say you can't apply because you're stuck here because of COVID, but you're still expected to meet the Tier 4 requirements. So in that sense, our financial or any document expectation has not changed. I'm not saying that yes, no, it's acceptable. I'm saying we can't advise on individual queries, apart from the general point that you can apply from A, you can apply from UK, and B, we expect you to meet the requirements of a Tier 4 visa as if you're applying from India, and as if times were not as extreme as they currently are.
Okay. So, but right now, Harry, like in the visa offices, like all is being done is the scan copy of the entire documents. So if the student is able to get the scan copy of the fixed deposit document and is uploaded over there in the UK, will it still be accepted by the UKVI?
So documents mostly come to us via scan anyway. So I'm not going to say it's impossible, but equally, as I said, when we get into is this type of document acceptable or not acceptable, I'm quite restricted on the advice I can give. I haven't seen the document. I don't know exactly what's there. So all I'm saying, yeah, again, there's no ban on scanned documents, and our assessing is increasingly digital. So for example, if you apply in Mumbai, the applications digitally come to Delhi or to UK. We're seeing the scanned digital copies there. So there's no block on it. But again, I can't say what you've just said. Yes, it's just
Thank you.
I can't see a reason to say no. So hopefully it's possible, but you can't say, oh, Harry said yes, it is possible, because I can't give that 100% assurance.
Oh, thank you, Harry. So like, I have the next question for you. So
Sure.
if a student has already declared that he does have dependents over here in India, but did not take them along at the time of going to the UK for studies, but at the time of applying for the GIR, graduate immigration route, can the student attach them as dependents to stay back in the UK?
Again, the policy point on that is that to apply for the graduate route, you have to be in the UK on a Tier 4 visa, whether that's main, student, or dependent. So you can't apply for the graduate route from India. You can only apply for the graduate route from inside the UK. So again, I'm not going to advise what the student and dependent should or shouldn't do, but I'll just highlight those two rules. You have to have a tier 4 status in the UK when you apply, and you can only apply from the UK. So if you're not meeting those two requirements, you may not be able to apply for the graduate route.
Harry, and there is another question about, again, dependents. So if the student is having a dependent spouse and the couple is having certain funding issues, say, for example, if the applicant is moving over to the UK first, and 6 months later, the dependent is applying from here as on a Tier 4 dependent visa, can the spouse join the UK?
Well, again, UK visa rules don't require that people apply at the same time. It's often good practice to do so, but we don't mandate it. So again, that's all I'd say, is that there's no fundamental requirement that the student and dependent apply at the same time, but both student and dependent need to meet the Tier 4 rules. So again, if the student makes a choice that they can meet Tier 4 rules whilst proceeding in the manner you've said, that may be possible. But yeah, again, there's no rule that automatically excludes it.
Oh, great, thank you, Harry. So the next question is, if there is a quarantine, I think you have already provided the answer in the presentation itself, but then I'll give it because the students have asked it. So the quarantine period is 14 days, but the BRP has to be collected within a period of 10 days. So if the students will be able to collect the same was the question. I think you gave the answer as 90 days, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course, if the UK government is saying you have to stay inside for 2 weeks, it would be a bit weird if we said you have to collect the BRP in 10 days. That specific requirement of collecting it within 10 days is suspended in that sense. Of course, some people still will. For example, I don't know, South Korean students currently do not need to self-quarantine. So South Korean students could collect their BRP in 10 days, but Indian students would not. And they're not going to be penalized for that. You'd still be expected to contact your university when you arrive. I know some universities, for example, are looking at picking students up from the airport. So I imagine you'll still have very close contact with your university. And then, of course, when you're out of quarantine, you'd be expected to then pick up your BRP as soon as you can. But the 10-day requirement, don't worry about that. That's not going to be enforced if the reason you miss the 10-day requirement is because you're in UK government mandated quarantine.
Okay, thank you, Harry. So the next question is, hello?
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. So the next question is, can the dependent apply for a study route while the student is in the graduate immigration route? And will the graduate immigration route be extended for the dependent?
So I can't quite work out the exact
Say, for example,
situation.
I'll tell you. It's, for example, if there is a student who has applied for the Tier 4 visa, she has completed her education, and now at the graduate immigration route period. So at that period, can the dependent apply for a study visa? And then will the graduate immigration route period be extended for both of them?
Again, you have to meet the Tier 4 requirements. If you're applying for a Tier 4 visa a week before the main students, if you're applying for a Tier 4 dependent visa at the very end of a Tier 4 main applicant's visa, I don't know if that's considered a valid course of action. All I can say is that the things I've said already is that we don't mandate that they apply at the same time, but you have to have a valid Tier 4 visa at the time you apply for the graduate route from inside the UK. I'm not going to say, yeah, go for it or don't do it. But also I'm not going to say, if you do this, you'll definitely be accepted or refused, because individual situations are different. Students and dependents will individually have to meet the graduate rules, the graduate route eligibility rules. But the rules to bear in mind is that you have to have the valid Tier 4 dependent visa. And to do that, to get the Tier 4 dependent route visa or the Tier 4 main student visa, you have to meet all the requirements of that route, and and that comes with it an expectation that you are going to be a dependent. So yeah, I wouldn't advise more than that.
Yeah. So the next question is like, what if the visa has been granted and if the flights do not resume over here in India? Say, for example, the international flights are still at an embargo.
Sure. Well, so I cover a region. I cover South and Southeast Asia. And I would say, actually, although everywhere is very difficult, Indian connectivity to the UK has been fairly strong, mainly through the Vande Bharat mission. But as I've alluded to, some commercial airlines are looking at restarting some flights. And I know, for example, BA are very aware that the student market is there. So I'm optimistic that these flight conditions will continue. However, as I've said, when you apply for a visa this year for the rest of 2020, it'll be for three months, 90 days rather than 30 days. So you get that, you get triple the amount of time. UK visa and immigration have given students 3 times as long to come to the UK. So whereas, if you get your visa for September, you'd have to be in there by the end of September. If you got your visa on the 1st of September this year, you'd have to be there by the end of November. So there's a much bigger window to travel. Additionally, we can renew the vignettes if it expires, and we've got that policy in place until the end of 2020. But equally, if you are from a city which is not well served by flights at the moment, for example, or I don't know, your exams have been delayed, then we don't necessarily advise that you should travel straight away. Universities are offering blended learning. If you need to do the first month of your course online and then travel at the end of October, say, apply for your visa in October. You don't need to worry about the Tier 4 visa for the start of your course. I hope people can travel at their first choice of time, but if they can't, the policy allows them to travel later. So it's triple the amount of time that you get. The window is 3 times longer to travel, so you have that more flexibility. Flight connections are relatively consistent, and you shouldn't feel the need to apply for your Tier 4 visa if you are really not feeling that you can travel to the UK. You can do that later, hopefully when conditions continue to slowly improve in terms of connectivity.
Okay. Harry, there is another question about Prodigy Finance. This is a particular organization which provides loan sanctions for the Ivy League universities, Cranfield University, and all for MBA program. So will the Prodigy Finance loan letter be accepted? I know that it is not in the approved institutions list of finances, but since this is an organization which provides only for students who are going to the top universities, can it be accepted?
I wouldn't second guess what was on gov.uk because it's fairly complex. The list of accepted financial institutions is quite long. If it is an institution that requires to be approved by UKVI, then if it's not explicitly approved, then I wouldn't say that that it's fine. But equally, we do have flexibility within the policy for private sponsorship and government sponsorship and loans. And again, the loan letter has to be a fully approved one. And depending on that individual situation, it might be acceptable. But if the agent or the student judge that the sort of institution they're using does come under the rules that require explicit approval, and it's not explicitly approved, then that's your answer, I'd say. I can't. Many people think I have more power than I do. I think I can't just say, yes, it's fine. There's a process to be followed, and that's why the list exists. So there may be an argument for putting this institution on the list, but if it's not, then that's the situation.
Arul, there is one point which I would like to make here, that in the past we have seen that students who have got loan from Prodigy Finance, they have got successfully their visa. And generally it offers a loan to students who are going to prestigious university, and it does give a kind of confirmation if UKVI contacts them. So it does fulfill all the requirement. And in the past, we have seen precedents of visas approved for students who are going on this loan.
Okay, that's a firmer answer than I can give, but that shows the UKVI policy that ultimately the student has the discretion and the responsibility to submit information. If they think their situation and their documents are legitimate, then they take responsibility for submitting that. We can say stuff totally isn't acceptable. For example, I don't know, stocks and land value aren't acceptable, but we can't say everything that is acceptable because that list would be never ending because so many students are choosing it. There's so many different banks and institutions. So the answer from Madhusudan is helpful, but it shows the UKVI policy has some flexibility for individual students to make their choices.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Madhu. So, Harry, the next question is like, is accommodation compulsory at the time of the visa application?
I think there is a space in the form to supply your accommodation details in the UK. It's not part of the fundamental requirements for a student visa. If you have the details, then you should include them in the form. And of course, when you get to the UK, you should have a location to isolate, so it may make sense. So that's what I'd say. There is space to include it, but it's not a fundamental student visa requirement. But equally, you are expected to have a location to self-isolate for 14 days. So it's not my job to advise individuals, but were I traveling somewhere and I needed to isolate, I would think before I arrived in that country where I wanted to isolate. That's not necessarily UK visa rule. That's just sense. You know, if I go back to the UK, I live in India. I don't have a house in the UK. I need to think where I isolate as well. I'm a British citizen. I don't need to worry about UK visas in that sense. But if I'm landing in a country I don't live in, I want to know where I'm sleeping that night.
Thank you, Harry. So yeah, the next question is actually about the post-study work. So they want to understand like how will they be able to transition from the Tier 4 student visa over to the graduate immigration route? Is there any specific set of rules already in place for it?
Yeah, but we've not opened the route for applications. So you can find like policy announcements on gov.uk, but you can't apply for the route yet. So you can't necessarily see that sort of direct experience. The route is fairly light touch. The main things that you need to know, as I've said, is that you apply from inside the UK. You have to have completed a course at a registered institution with the Home Office. For example, that's most universities that I know SRUK and British Council work with here. It's not, for example, I don't know, a private college which has never been registered with the Home Office. Students in universities and educational institutions which recruit internationally have to register with the Home Office before they can legitimately recruit students. As I say, pretty much all universities that recruit in India are registered, so you don't need to worry. But if you are worried about that, you can type in UKVI registered sponsors into gov.uk, and the list of registered universities and employers are on that list. In addition, there's not going to be an English language requirement or a financial sponsorship requirement because the student is already in the UK. So if you've already lived in the UK, you've already met the Tier 4 requirements, you don't need to do that again. If you've just completed a course in England, you don't need to show your English ability again. So there's none of that requirements. There's no sponsorship requirement. There's no work conditions requirement. The requirement is that you're in the UK, that you've completed a course. There will be some details within that, of course. You'll have to pay the immigration health surcharge, and there is a fee for the graduate route, which hasn't been set yet. But beyond that, and of course, there'll be things like criminal records checks and identity checks, which happen for everyone, regardless of nationality or visa route. So, but that's quite light touch. If you're applying for a Tier 2 visa, the skilled work visa, that would require minimum salaries, that would require sponsorship by an employer, etc., etc. None of that is required for a graduate route. It is a free ticket that you have to apply for. You have to complete your course, and then that's the 2-year period to have that head start in the UK. You can't extend it. It doesn't count towards settlement, as I've said, but it's that springboard perhaps to, well, either the student could stay in the UK for 2 years and then return to India, or they could think they like the UK and they want to stay, and then they can apply for a different route. But our offer is that the graduate route, which we guarantee for next year, is coming in, and it gives everyone that much longer period. The final point I'll make on that is that the Tier 4 route includes 4 months already. So say your course is 12 months long, your visa would be for 16 months. That still will be the case. So, and then the 2-year route can be in addition to that. So you could have 2 years and 4 months after you graduate between the Tier 4 and the graduate route, if that's what you wanted as well. So it's a huge, huge increase. And I hope it's as well received as I think it has been in India in the last year since we've announced it.
Thank you, Harry. So yeah, the next question is about quarantine and travel regulations for parents and guardians who are traveling along with the students. So right now, yes, UK is accepting students to come over there for education, and visa is being provided. But is it okay if there are going to be like guardians as well as parents who are traveling along with the students?
There's no restriction on it. The guardian or parent or any other Indian national who is going to the UK for a period of less than 6 months has to get a visit visa, which is a separate process. But you're more than welcome to apply for the visit visa. There's no like parent or guardian's visa. There's no ability to live in the UK as a guardian of a student, for example. But if they wanted to, for example, visit visas are 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. So if your student is going for a master's, you might want to get a 2-year visit visa. So at the start of the course, at the graduation, at Christmas or at summer, the parent can go back and forth. But if you're just looking to go for that initial period, you can apply for a 6-month visit visa. So yeah, it's perfectly possible, but the parent or guardian can't live in the UK, but they could visit regularly through applying for a visit visa. And many parents do that. That's totally fine.
Thank you, Harry. So the next question is about the IHS medical cover, including COVID-19 as well as the treatment. I think you've already answered this, but then probably some students might have joined late. I just wanted you to confirm it. The IHS covers the medical expenses for COVID-19, both test as well as treatment. Am I right?
Yeah. It's not explicitly linked to paying the IHS. Technically, the government has guaranteed that anyone, regardless of their nationality or status, does not have to pay for COVID-19 testing or treatment at all. Obviously, the UK has some private healthcare. I think 5% of the UK population use private healthcare. If the student wanted to get private healthcare in addition to public healthcare, they would obviously pay for that. But they all have to pay for the immigration health surcharge at the point of application. And as part of that, they get complete access to the National Health Service, including complete treatment and testing for COVID-19 if they need it. Speaking for myself, I lived for 25 years in UK before I moved out to India. I'd never used private healthcare, and you, as the Indian student, would get exactly the same treatment as me as the British citizen for both COVID-19, but also any other treatment that you may need. So it's mandatory, which some people don't like, but it's also a full health coverage, which in many ways is quite competitive to health insurance costs in North America, for example.
Thank you, Harry. So yeah, there is another like scenario question from a student. So if I have submitted the online visa application form, visa fees, and IHS on the 3rd of August, my funds are maturing up on the 10th of August. So my appointment at the VFS is on August 17th. So I'm confused. Should my funds mature up before submitting the online visa form or before the VFS appointment date? I think this is a question without the student's knowledge, but then Harry, can you answer it?
I think generally it would be the date of visa application form, because that's the point. I'm not going to say it's fundamentally banned for the visa application, but generally it's 28 days to the point when you submit all your documents. If you think about what the UK visa officer would be seeing, they don't know generally what date you applied. The visa application centre appointment is like a submission point. The information will all be dated towards the day you submit online. So generally, I think it's best practice to have 28 days funds to the point that you apply online. So yeah, that's all I could say. Specifics on individuals.
Thank you, Harry. So the next question is about a student from Nepal. He's residing over here in India. So he just wants to know, like, if he can apply the visa from India rather than going to Nepal because of the current restrictions.
So generally, in the last few years, if someone is resident in another country, then they take on the requirements of that country. That's similar for TB tests or potentially the documentation requirements. So if this individual has been living in India a long time, then they would be able to apply. And actually, Nepal and India have quite similar requirements because they're from the same part of the world. And then specifically for COVID, it is generally possible to apply from third-party countries. So Nepalese and Indian in India, for example, or Indians in the United Arab Emirates. Generally, this is possible. Obviously, we can't vouch for quarantine periods or visa requirements of the country that you're going to. That's not within the UK government's remit. But as far as UKVI are concerned, it would be possible to apply, or it should be possible. Again, I can't guarantee in all situations.
So there are similar questions, I guess, Harry. So then another student wants to understand, like, if he already holds a Tier 2 visa, can he apply for a Tier 4 student visa from the UK?
If he's already in the UK
with a Tier 2 visa.
Yeah, again, in-country switching, we call it. There's quite a significant section if you Google UKVI coronavirus advice on gov.uk. If you search that there's several pages of policy guidance on this, and in-country switching is the official name for it, and that's currently possible. Of course, whatever you're doing in the UK as a Tier 2 worker, that's not immaterial, but the consideration would be meeting the Tier 4 visa route. So again, the requirements around finance, around English language, around academic documents, around CAS, they would all be the same. So yes, it's possible tactically. You can submit it from UK if you're already there, but the Tier 4 requirements would still be as if you're applying from India, and you need to meet those.
Thank you, Harry. So again, I think this also you have answered earlier, but then the student has asked it again. So can I start my course online without applying for the visa? I have my CAS issued. I plan to apply for visa in November 2020 and get in the UK by Jan 2021.
Yeah, that's fine. Apply for your visa in time for the date you need to travel. That's fine. And yeah, in that specific scenario, again, it's my thing that I keep saying, I can't advise specifically what an individual is doing, but in that specific scenario, that is what the policy is for. If you can't travel due to COVID, you can start your course online and travel and apply for your visa in time for travel. So yeah, that would be okay.
So the next question is, can I get help from SI UK for visa application? So
that's for you.
Probably they're asking us. Madhu, will you be able to answer the question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always take help from SI UK, and we will definitely help you out. I suggest you get in touch with our nearest branch, or else you can write to delhi@studyin-uk.com, and we will get back to you immediately. Don't worry about that.
Okay. So Harry, the questions are going on roundabout again in regards to the quarantine sessions for Indian students. Is there going to be any specific restrictions in regards to quarantine for Indian students?
No specific for Indian students, no. The rules are the same for all countries which require quarantine. Another thing that comes up quite a lot, this isn't a visa restriction. You don't have to apply, you don't have to, I don't know, apply for some sort of quarantine certificate or get a COVID test before you travel to India as part of your, before you travel from India as part of your visa application. It's a public health requirement. Again, if you are coming into Delhi, you quarantine at Aero City. This isn't far from where I live, and I know that it's mandatory. So it's not like the UK is the only one doing this. It's very common at the moment. But the difference in the UK is that we're not saying go to these hotels. We're saying we expect people to quarantine and to sort of find this out for themselves. As I say, many universities are saying, okay, if our students need to quarantine, we're going to pick them up from the airport. We're going to take them to a specific part of the campus where they can quarantine. UK government, we're not really in the business of saying, okay, yes, that's good or bad for the university to do it in that way. We're just saying we expect everyone to do it. And as part of that, you should be expected to go there. The border is not closed. It's never been closed. If you meet the visa requirements, you can enter the UK and you have the valid visa, of course. You have the right to present at the border and potentially get into the UK. Yeah, the public health expectation is that you fill out the form and you self-isolate after. Where that is, as I say, depends. It's just there's no more or less requirement for students to do something. It's a public health requirement, not a visa or nationality specific requirement.
Thank you, Harry. Harry, there is another important question. Say, for example, if students are landing in London, but their university is in Birmingham, will the students be allowed to take the public transport as soon as they land, or should they be quarantined in London first for 14 days?
So the UK government advice is that you do not use public transport. That's again for your own and others' safety. We can't necessarily mandate it. It's not like we track people who arrive, but we do spot checks on people, and there is an expectation that they follow these guidelines. Again, it's for everyone's safety. I know that this issue of people studying in Birmingham, West Midlands, the north of England may, well, they're quite far from London. But again, what I've heard is that universities are looking to potentially provide transport from Heathrow to the place of accommodation. The university will advise on this. Again, I as a UK government official can't say this is what we're asking people to do. We don't really take that approach in general with mandating things in a certain way. We just say you have to meet these requirements. But UK universities, India is an incredibly important market to them. As I say, the numbers of Indian students has gone up by 5 times in 4 years, basically. India's super important. We know that as a community, and UK universities are taking action to support that community. So you shouldn't expect to use public transport during your quarantine period, but you should get in contact with your university to advise what they are doing, because they're the ones who have direct responsibility for you and they can help the most. I can't do that. I can just say, these are the rules. The university will say, this is how you can meet the rules.
Thank you, Harry. And there is one more important question about the TB certificates being done. Say, for example, there is only one center for the entire Tamil Nadu region in Chennai. And Chennai is currently under restricted lockdown scenarios where people are unable to travel. And if students are planning to go to Kochi, the only TB center available over there is not giving appointments at a very rapid pace. So what do we do about the current TB testing scenario, which is becoming difficult for students to go to certain locations?
Unfortunately, I don't have a particularly satisfying answer to that. You would still be expected to have a TB certificate from a location that's most convenient to you, whether it's one of those 2 locations. But as I say, for whatever reason, if you can't travel due to coronavirus restrictions, you can travel later and meet the requirements at that point. I know that's not ideal in so many ways for all of us. The coronavirus year of 2020 has not been ideal, but you won't be disadvantaged. It may be unfortunate, people want to go in September, they want to start their course, but it may be that you go a little later and when you can make these appointments. But all I can say is, even if you are delayed because of this reason or any other reason like that, you won't be disadvantaged in immigration status. As long as you're in the UK by the 6th of April, you will be able to apply for the graduate route, which we have guaranteed, and you can apply, you can study online. I know that's, I know it's more inconvenient to travel, but that's just unavoidably true at the moment. And it's the same for me as a UK government employee based in India. It's the same for people around the world. Restrictions are in place for people's health. We wouldn't advise against any local government regulations, but we would say that if these affect you, we have flexibility to make sure you aren't disadvantaged, even if you have to go a little later.
Okay, can the student go to some other testing center and get a certificate? Will that work, or he has to or she has to go to a UKVI authorized clinic only?
It would have to be a UKVI authorized clinic. There are many of these in India. I know some students would say not enough, but again, it has to be regulated and approved. And as a general point, I suppose that this whole context shows how important health is. So doing that process is very much required from the same centres that are on gov.uk. Whether you go to the closest one or the most easily accessible one, it's up to the student, but we still need to see the certificate from an approved TB centre.
Thank you.
Harry, there is another question. Like, say, for example, if after applying for the visa, choosing the appointment date with the VAC, and then restriction has been imposed that we will not be able to travel to the VAC center, is there a possibility to change the VAC center?
After they've applied, it would be difficult, because if there are restrictions in getting to the VAC, there'd be restrictions on transporting stuff, your passport, that's why we had to close our visa application centres in March and only reopen them in July, because of the lockdown that Prime Minister Modi required the country to adhere to. The lockdown affects us as much as it does everyone else, and if we can't transport stuff, it's difficult. What I would say, I can't, again, it's VFS's domain. I can't tell you that you have to pay for this service, but VFS are recommending that you purchase courier service, which I believe is a fairly small fee in addition, and that would prevent a second trip to the visa application centre. If a visa application centre needs to close, then we will close it, and then we'll open it again as soon as possible. In the last 2 weeks, Pune, Bangalore, and Mumbai have closed for a couple of days and reopened. But if you can opt for the courier service, that would be the easiest way to remove the requirement of going to a visa application centre twice. And VFS are recommending that. So if I know a lot of times people just don't want to pay anything more, and I understand that. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but that service is there.
Yeah,
Harry, there is
sorry.
Sorry,
there are a lot of questions about flights. A lot of students are asking about that, whether flights are running or not running and how they can plan their travel. So let me tell the students that flights are operating now, and British Airways, as Harry has also informed, that from 17th August they are taking now booking, and they are going to have regular flights from Mumbai and London almost on daily basis. From Bangalore and Hyderabad, they are going to fly 4 times in a week, and you can go on their website and you can book flights now. And SI UK, we are also in talk with few airlines, private airlines, and we are looking forward to do some arrangements so Indian students can go to UK. So it's a kind of charter flights. So you can get in touch with us if you are interested to avail these services. And as far as universities are concerned, like you asked one question earlier, that whether the student need to quarantine in London or the destination. Many universities are providing pickup services from Heathrow Airport. So they are also taking care of that. And I think the best thing is the student should get in touch with the counselor to get a particular information about the university, how that university is managing these facilities and how they are going to facilitate international students, particularly students from India. So flights are normal, don't worry. You can book your flight and you can apply for visa and you can fly to UK.
Yep.
Thank you, Madhu. Harry, just one last question. So the graduate immigration route, there are lots of courses which says 1-year course plus 1-year placement, and the students are being offered 24 months. So in this case scenario, if certain students do not get the work placements, will they still be able to get the GIR within the period September 2021, or can they extend it until 2022?
The expectation for the graduate route is that you complete the course. If this placement is considered a vital part of the course and you cannot complete the course without it, then it may be more difficult to say you've completed the course and can therefore apply for the graduate route. So I would advise you to get in touch with the university. I wouldn't say more than that. I hear lots of different formats of courses, like including a placement. Some include placements of 3 months. Some include what they call a sandwich placement, so like study at either side. Again, I'm not an academic advisor in that sense. All I can say is that you need to have completed a course with a valid Tier 4 visa and applying from inside the UK. If not doing the placement means you don't complete the course and need to leave the UK, then you wouldn't be able to apply for the graduate route from overseas. But if there are, alternative ways you can complete the course, then that's something that you and the university might explore. So again, speak to the university about that. There's no simple answer of yes or no that I could say.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you so much. So thank you one and all for participating in this event. I know there have been a lot of queries which are left unanswered. So you can get to us back using our email IDs, or you can contact us through our mobile numbers or landline numbers, which is available pan-India. Like we have 10 offices, which has already been mentioned earlier. So you can contact the SI UK offices for answers, whichever we will be able to provide. We will be more than glad to help you out on that regard. Harry, a very, very sincere thanks for you to providing this time, your precious time and efforts to support the students pan-India. And SI UK is planning to organize travel for Indian nationals to the UK through private provider, as Madhusudan had told you earlier. So if you are interested, please do contact the regional offices. They will be able to guide you in regards to the same. Thank you once and again, thank you everyone for participating in this event. SI UK really wishes you all a very, very safe and healthy travel and a very prosperous career ahead with education in the United Kingdom. Thank you. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you. Thanks all. Good luck, everyone. Bye.